Hello, and welcome to day 20. Today we're going to talk about, or continue to talk about, that internal garbage that I referenced yesterday. And that could be from childhood trauma, it could be from everyday stressors, but we all have garbage that accumulates throughout our life or throughout our week that we have to go back and clean out the cobwebs and kind of wipe the slate clean and do a little mental maintenance. Because garbage will accumulate over time no matter what happens. It could be what researchers call a trauma from our past, something that happened to us. It could be a death, a car accident, or something traumatic. Or it could be B trauma, something where we didn't get enough of that week, whether that's love, approval, or we were neglected when we wanted to be kind of helped out in some way. But we all have little traumas or big traumas that accumulate over our lifetime. And there's not a whole lot we can do about it. It's always going to come. And a good way to tell, you might be thinking, well, I don't have any of those traumas. But if you have some symptoms in your life, life's not going exactly the way you want it to, then there's something at your root that's not going well. I always like to think of it kind of like a fruit tree. The way you tell if a fruit tree isn't doing well is if you look at its fruit and how it's doing, the symptoms of its life. But you got to look underneath the surface to fix those problems, to get to the root problems. Because we all have garbage that accumulates over time. It's just whether we address it or not. Because if you just address the symptoms, say for instance there's a garbage pile over here and there's all sorts of flies around it, and the symptoms are the flies, if you just swat away one of those flies and the garbage is still there, another thing will take its place. I like to think of the example of, say someone is a heavy drinker and they give up drinking because it's causing them so much problems, but they don't address those kind of root problems beneath that, then something else will take its place. That could be codependency or gambling. The point I'm trying to make is that you got to kind of look inside and go a little bit deeper to get what actually is causing those problems. Because when you have a trauma in your brain starts to overgeneralize and see everything as a threat. It starts to distort time. So you don't realize that maybe the trauma happened then, but you kind of feel like it's happening now. So that dorsolateral prefrontal cortex in our brain gets all kind of screwy. We aren't able to kind of be proficient or work through our day or work through our problems if we don't focus on what's happened in the past. There's a kind of a great example of trauma on a larger scale, and this happened during World War II, where Japanese soldiers were put on an island and told to stay there and fight. And what they were told to stay there and fight until someone came to them. But no one came for them. And some of those soldiers were fighting 30 years after the battle had ended. And what they are going through is what most people with trauma are going through, is they don't know that the battle's over because they can't separate the past from the present. So we have to search out and work on our trauma so we don't have dealing with the same problems over and over again. And we have to do that on a macro level, but also on our micro level throughout our week, dealing with little traumas as they come up. So for today's self-reflection, we're going to look at our mindsets, whether it's a victim mindset or a survivor mindset, to see where we lie on that spectrum, to see how quickly or efficiently we try to get over trauma ourselves. That's all I have for today. Thanks for checking in, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.